Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this podcast called Chatting in Cars. I think I've just started recording again actually, even though it just cut out. That was a bit shitty. This is a podcast where I talk about random topics while I drive to work. I'm going to have to say sorry because I'm flued up to the eyeballs and I'll be probably muddling my language all over the place because I'm not medicated. One of my kids gave me this from work and I'm just a bit gone, so don't mind me. There is a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do talk about sensitive topics and I do swear a lot, so if you don't want to hear me swearing, if you don't want to talk about things like, abuse or rape or poverty cycles or things like that, then you probably should turn off. I'm going to apologize already because my brain's a bit addled because the flu and it's Monday and I'm just not all there, so we're going to carry on going. It's alright, I'm wearing makeup, keep going. Just cover it up and hope we can get through it. The topic for today is masking. Now, masking is where you take on a certain form of attributes in order to participate in certain acts or behaviours, which usually has an end goal or a directive to follow. For example, going to work is pretty much masking. Everybody's wearing a sort of pre-prescribed uniform deemed appropriate for the position in order to participate in what they're trying to do. As a teacher, I have to look a particular way, I have to act a particular way, and this is deemed professional. We hope to pull it off. Doesn't always work, especially when you're sick as fuck and you just want to go home and watch Game of Thrones. And a big fluffy beanbag and with a blanket and tell people to piss off. But we try. What else is there? Masking also relates to trying to belong to a certain group of, some groups in society. You got to wear a certain set of characteristics in order to participate or to make it look like you belong. I don't really like that side of things. I tend to just be myself. So lots of people don't like it because I'm not exactly tactful at times. But generally what you see is what you get. I'm not willing to hide shit, and particularly with ASD, it's been a long history of having to pretend to fit in, sort of thing. But I think everyone does it anyway. But with autism, it's more of a case of copying others to try and fit in because you're worried about not being able to participate, which is normal or normative for many people in society, but at the same time it's like a uber emphasized for anyone with ASD. It's like you're just trying to really fit in. So I stopped doing that. Only to a degree do I do that now. I haven't stopped completely. You still have to be able to conduct yourself in certain ways which are conducive to the group. But I've now got a lack of willingness to want to participate in group work. It doesn't appeal, so I just don't really bother. On top of that, there's a lot of things I've noticed in groups and particularly with crowds that it's just unappealing. And you can reconsider and reevaluate whether your behaviours are worth actually trying to fit in. Is it worth it? If I act this particular way, should I bother? Or can I just be myself and be happy on my own? I've got nothing to gain from associating from other people in particular, so it's not like I'm trying to fit in to do the whole get married and have babies sort of thing. It's like I've got a job, it's a good job. I've compartmentalized that into the position it needs to be in. I'm not going to do the let's go drinking with friends shit after work. It's like, no. So I'm pretty stable in where I want to be right now. Any masking I do in that regard is more of a professional level than anything else. Ooh, that was bang. It's more of a courtesy between professionals, for lack of better words. I don't like the idea of faking yourself just to, self-promote. Because it essentially essentially in the future they're gonna find out. It's like people that wear those cake face makeups. It's like eventually someone's gonna find out that you don't look that way. At the moment I'm wearing a fair whack of makeup just to cover up the fact that I look like Yoda. Thanks to my flu and lack of sleep, so I'll go that far, but I won't I won't go, you know, into the whole faking and putting makeup on my persona to try and appeal to other people. It's like, I am me. I'm old and I'm currently a little bit grumpy, so just leave me alone. It's been a weird 40 years, nearly 40 years actually. And you know, when you're younger, you're trying to fit in a bit more. There was a need to fit in when I was in high school, in primary school, to appear like one of the people. But you find as you age and you get out of those kind of circumstances that there's no real, I mean, besides employment, there's no real impetus to try and fake who you are. You get to a certain age, everybody's just tired and sick, and they just want you know, to relax and get on with the day, so we get our job done and go home. Unless of course you're buying into sort of like social media and stuff like that, where like if you're working in that particular field, if you're a celebrity, they tend to be a lot more plastic. I doubt any of them have an internal reflection similar to their external. I doubt it. Like even looking at particular people like Henry Cavill, he's the one that stands out the most at the moment. I mean, he seems a very nice man. He is, from what I can see, and I'm looking at him, and he looks like he's severely masking. He has taken traits from cliche and stereotypical masculine fronts. I can see that he's taken his traits from, you know, characters in periodic dramas and things like that. He's it's like, how much of that is real? I'm watching him help people down the stairs. I'm going, well, you picked that up from somewhere. Obviously, you've deemed this trait to be valuable in your PR stunts or whatever you want to convey yourself as. Whether it's real or not, I don't know. I have a feeling these are traits and behaviors that have been put on show to elicit a certain response from the crowd. I question whether they are authentic and actually him, or something him and his agent have come together and said, this is the way we do things because, you know, it looks good on camera. And we want to get you, you know, James Bond roles, and you know James Bond was meant to be like this gentleman and this, you know, thing. What they're doing, it feels like, is they're taking on and mimicking traits aimed at jobs and positions they want, and they're sort of seeding up to that position. For example, he was seen beforehand as this very wholesome, clean guy, and then he got the Superman role. It's like, that's a loaded barrel. Loaded dice there. It's like, how can I craft my persona to fit in with the bit I want to get next? You have to see these traits in action for someone to go, hey, this guy could do this role. It's like, yeah, but is it real? Or is he just doing it so he can get the part? You know, it feels manipulative. I don't agree with that kind of masking. Unless, of course, he actually is that kind of person. You never know, because Hollywood's full of fakes. But, you know, it's like, you'd have to see him in his natural habitat, you know, greased up with Cheeto grease and gaming away, you know. I know how they operate. My ex-husband and my brother were gamers. I know how they operate. My brother is into Warhammer. I know what they're supposed to look like in their natural habitat. I can tell you what smell the room will have. I know what the reality is. Yeah, it's strange. But, you know, I suppose that's, you know, preloaded masking in order to attain a position maybe he wants. If he's constantly wandering around in suits, they might look at him and say, oh, there is a James Bond character we could employ, you know, for that position. They say dress for the part you want. I don't know what part I want, to be honest. So at this point I just want quiet. But you know, I still think that your inside should reflect your outside, because essentially at some point someone's going to recognize that he's not a James Bond person. You know, it feels fake. I don't like the fake. I mean, I was looking particularly at his love life, because I'm sitting there going, oh, he's got a girlfriend or whatever, and she's having a baby and all that crap, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, fine then. This is what breeders do. So, and he's following the very cliche role steps involved in being one. So it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. Anyway, pick a fence, all that shit, vanilla sex, I get it. This is what you think you should be doing, but okay, don't think for yourself. And this in itself could be a crafted persona that he's picked up in order to appeal to the masses. This is the conservative view that, you know, as far as I know, he's come from a background where, you know, you think about the kids that got kicked off to boarding school by rich parents. It feels like one of those backgrounds. I'm sitting there going, I'd love to know what the actual reality of your childhood was that you are now taking on this conservative sterile persona. It doesn't feel authentic to me. I look at him and I'm going, you're just a strategically arranged set of cliches at this point. How much of this is actually you? It's like, I'm always waiting for him to whip out a cigar and, you know, I'll get my whiskey, and I'm sitting there going, you're full of shit, mate. Hey, look, what's this? I got one of them. SAS. I do have one of them. He's got 2 stickers like me. Support the SASR. Is that the Australian one? But, you know, you question how much of this shit is real and how much of it is something that's derived from a series of cliches and stereotypes in order to elicit a particular response and get you on board. It's like, how much of this is lie, essentially? I feel it's lying. I feel it's just marketing yourself. And whilst there is a certain degree of professionalism involved in certain jobs and things like that, as an actor, considering you're on the stage, you have to have a high, or perceived to be high morals. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to get the jobs you want. You look at people like Robert Downey Jr., as soon as they started giving into their drug addiction, stuff like that, they got less jobs because they were considered a liability. They were going to turn up to work because they were high as fuck, so they didn't bother getting the jobs. Whether they were good actors or not, and we know Robert Downey Jr. is an amazing actor, but at the time, the decisions he was making in life, they might have been authentic at the time, we don't know. Were not conducive to getting particular jobs or positions, so he would have to severely mask all that kind of stuff just to get anything. That would have been crazy. I don't know how you'd cover up that, but it would have been done badly because you still found like he was crashing in people's houses and stuff, breaking stuff. It's like you're doing all these things that you just couldn't mask. So there is a value to masking, but at the same time it shouldn't be the be all end all. With autism, it's like a lot of masking is just based on trying to fit in. We are told that we should want to fit in, and that sets us up for a fall, because if we're our authentic selves, then we're not going to fit in. We've always been weird. It's like, we've always been weird. Own your weirdness, man. So fuck it. Stop trying to fit in with a bunch of people that are, you know, normative and boring. There is no normal, quite frankly. Normal doesn't exist. It just doesn't. There's no way in how someone's led the same kind of life as the next person next to them. It's just not perceivable. Everybody interprets their reality different, because they've all got that sort of butterfly effect of, you know, knock-on experiences, which have sort of created its own path as it journeys along. There's no way in hell 2 people would have experienced the same version of reality. It's strange that people should assume that there is normal. There is no normal. It's an abstract concept designed to control the masses into behaving. If you're not doing normal things, then you are vilified. If you're not following the social norms at the time, then you're an outsider, and Durkheim will step in and say, fuck you, get out, we hate you. It's like, wait a minute. Actually, Durkheim didn't give a fuck about that. He was more inclusive. He was just saying othering occurs. He wasn't actually saying we should be othering. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. Anyway, if you're into sociology. But that's how we do. It's perceived to be a safety thing. If people aren't masking and following along with rules and doing what we should be doing, or is perceived to be doing, then they're a threat. And quite honestly, there's a lot of people that aren't a threat, that just want to be different, or just are a bit odd. You know, they're a bit odd, but they're harmless. But the fact that there is potential for a threat and a real threat, the odd ones are often seen as the ones to kick out or to get rid of, because they're not being normal. Therefore, they could potentially be a violent, deadly, horrible threat. You know, so why risk it? Kick them out or vilify them or you know, ostracize them, which is not very inclusive at all. And it doesn't leave any kind of room for development outside of the box in which people want to live in, just to be perceived as normal. I'm not normal, but it's a harmless kind of not normal. I don't mind being weird. I enjoy the ride. But I've got a few factors working for me, for example, which is a bit bigoted. I'm a girl. So if you see a not normal girl, the worst threat I could probably get from someone else is, oh, she's a crazy bitch. If I was a not normal guy, he could potentially be a violent, you know, offender or something like that. There's a more extreme version. Because I'm female, I'm seen as not as perceived as much a threat as someone who is male. And that goes with things like ethnicity as well, which is horrible because, you know, considering we're all human, we're all capable of all kinds of horrible things. You want equality, as weird as it sounds, you want equality amongst every behavior that is perceived to be human. Not just because you're female or because you're Caucasian or, you know, on the, you know, like dual-edged sword there, with double-edged blade. Because I'm Caucasian, they think I'm going to get away with more crimes. How's that, you know? It's like, I don't think so. I'm double demonized. So that's an interesting idea. It's like, anyway, it's like she won't get done for it because they're not actively looking for her, so she'll get away with it more. It's like, I don't want to do the crimes in the first place. It's like, they get away with so much. I'm like, what? I didn't want to do them anyway. Having said that, I did come from a poverty background, and crime was rife in the area. It was very normalized. I say normalized, it was, there was a lot of it. It was not, you know, people could do it on a whim and be like, eh. But, you know, it's a preloaded ideas. Oh, stole the car. Ooh, someone fucked that one up. I'm in my old neighborhood, by the way. I just saw someone's car. Yeah, on the side of the road that got done. Anyway, it looked like an expensive one. Not this one. It's not from this area. There are double standards to do with personal attributes which are accredited to masking. One person's version of masking is going to be different to another person's version of masking because they've just got different attributes to contribute to this mask. A man's mask is going to be different to a woman's mask. A doctor's mask is going to be different to a lawyer's mask. I don't know. All of it's different. My point being, there is no normal. Stop trying to be normal. You don't need to be. There isn't. Doesn't exist. It's just not there. Which is a bit existentialist, but you know, we've got to be inclusive. Everyone's abnormal. Embrace your silliness. This desire to have to fit in order to belong, to get along, creates all kinds of problems. There is some reasonable experiences where you have to be a particular way, like you could be a mass murderer and still expect a teaching position. It would be odd. But at the same time, you know, you don't have to be exactly on point when it comes to your time and your developing who you are as a person. Not in the professional field or anything where you have to work, when it's your time. Don't get hooked into the idea that you have to act and behave a certain way in order to belong to a group, for example, because it's not going to authentically represent who you are. It's going to be a gimcrack of what you should be. It's this cartoon, a caricature of what you should be. It's not real. It's usually exaggerated. I've seen men get together. Men. What is the version of a man these days? Fuck knows. I'm not even talking about gender roles. I'm just looking at real life examples. Guys who get together in the bar, for example, where they're all, you know, camaraderie and all that. And then actually having them at home. They're a completely different person. They're masking in that social scenario. It's all dick measuring contests and how manly they are and shit like that. Get them home and they're like completely different thing. You know, you sit there and think, where was this in the pub? Which is weird because it should be matching up. If they're living authentically, they should be at home who they are in the pub. But because they're so afraid to be seen in a certain way, they take on certain levels of masking or certain attributes of masking where their own wife wouldn't recognize them. You go, what the fuck is this? Unless you consider part of a faceted personality. People are eclectic in their traits. You could say that it's just one facet of who they are. You could say it's all involved rather than either or. If that makes sense. I don't know. I probably should be on flu medication right now. I'm just... you could be more inclusive about that. Is developing your own personality? I don't know. But when you find conflicting ideologies in behavioral traits, like for example, in the pub, the man might be a misogynist, but in private, he might claim to be pro women's rights. Which one do you believe when they're conflicting? You can't really peg who this person is, and the disconnect creates problems because you're sitting there thinking, am I with this guy who's a misogynist, or does he actually give a fuck about women? You don't know what to do. It causes a conflicting, a bad and it just feels like you feel like that person's just lying. It's like either you are this or you're that. Why would you choose such conflicting approaches to something and then claim you're both? It's strange. Oh my god, my nose. What time is it? Okay. Oh, still got 20 minutes. So it has this place. Don't mind me, I need to blow my nose. Gross. Ew. You can't watch that. Anyway, so it's a case of where do I find the sort of happy medium? Even if I've got two conflicting ideologies, where do I find the happy medium where I create the authentic self? Where I'm not living a lie. Like as I said in the last postcode. Get me the meds. In the last podcast, and my starter's kicking in. Great. I don't want to live a life where my kids are believing that I don't smoke. If I did, it's like I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't take drugs, I don't eat meat. I don't. Because I have certain views on particular things, and that's for me, and I'm not inflicting that on anyone else. I'm just saying these are my views. For me. But I don't want my kids to ask me if I have, like if I smoke or drink, and then me saying, oh no, don't do that, when actually I do. I find that to be inauthentic, and I don't want to present that kind of bullshit. I want to be honest. Masking that would say, no, I don't, when clearly you do. You sit there, chain smoking before work or something like that. You don't want to lie to them. That's living authentically, is when you're honest about your actions and intentions and you own them. Don't just fib for the sake of looking better. It's not going to help you in the long term. At some point, one of your kids is going to see you outside of work hours and they're going to see you smoking or something like that, and they'll go, oh, you bastard, you lied to us. But yeah, you don't want to live inauthentically, masking for the wrong reasons. one of those boomer cliche statements is don't do what I do. Oh, don't do what I say. No, so don't do what I do. Do what I say, or some shit like that. And you sort of think, why would you introduce such hypocrisy into the equation? So, well, why are you trying to validify that you're doing the wrong thing and not following your own instructions, living by example, and then expecting us to follow suit? It's strange. Don't do what I do, do what I say. That was my parents, man. Which is weird because I actually did that. They said don't smoke, so I didn't. My dad smokes heavily still, and he's in his 60s. He's not doing well. I don't do drugs. They don't do drugs, but I don't do drugs either. You know, all these things, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. At the same time, you shouldn't be inauthentically masking just to fit in. With regards to things like employment and stuff, if you feel not comfortable, maybe it's a time to upskill and shuffle off to a different type of job if you don't feel like this is something you could support. When I was selling Mary Kay, as I said in the last podcast, that shitty makeup, I didn't agree with the product or the way they were doing things, so I shuffled off from that. I don't agree with this. It's not a project I would buy or sell at this price, then fuck it. I had to upskill and recognize the problem there, that I was masking by performing these acts of pretending it was a good product and you should buy this and all that crap. First thing they say is sell to your friends. I'm pretty sure that's associated with how drug dealers get their business. Sell to your friends, and then the friends will create, further clients. But they did. They emphasized that you should get your female friends, because it's a female business, makeup, seemingly. Guys wear it too. And you should sell to your friends first, and then your friends will tell their friends, and then it spreads that way. It's the pyramid scheme. I don't have a lot of female friends. I'm not comfortable with women. Weirdly, because I am one. But I have certain traits I would associate with women which are not perpetuated in certain surroundings. I identify mainly with older women and less with younger ones, because there's certain traits going around that I just can't get on board with. They feel impractical and shallow. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Because, you're all girls, you're supposed to band together. It's like, no. I just don't. Besides the fact I was raised to be a man, or what was deemed a man, my mum wanted us to be the man that my dad wasn't. And she succeeded. Which is why I'm having trouble finding a decent man now. Because I'm more man than they are. So I might not have balls, but I've got metaphorical balls. It's worrying, isn't it? I'm going to get some alpha Andrew Tate follower saying, "You're standing in our masculine energy." Breathe air. The fuck, Andrew? I'm standing on masculinity, not because, since when did this become masculine anyway? It's like a competent female. I want men to stand in their feminine energy. If we're going to cliche stereotypes, go and make me a sandwich. Stand in your feminine energy. Value that. Go and make me a fucking sandwich. If we're going cliches, the stereotypes. Show me how clean you can make that bathtub, fucker. Because they downplay stereotypical female traits, but then they upplay masculine traits. I just find it as adult competent traits. You should be able to hold a job and cook and clean. It's everyone should be doing that. These are just adulting common skills which should be amongst a population that are deemed useful. If you can pick up further skills, maybe like, I don't know, landscaping, all kinds of fucking things, whatever, renovations and stuff, like, you can pick that up regardless of sex, Jenny. You should be fucking doing it anyway. These are skills. Everyone should be doing it. But I've yet to find a man who can stand up and say, I clean the house appropriately. Yeah. Women's skills are so downplayed. It's like they're not valuable. It's like they're valuable, but everyone should be doing it. Maybe it's because women don't get paid for it unless they're actually employed as, you know, like a cleaner or something. Maybe only things are valuable as long as you got monetary value on it. That's why people get pissy when they're stay-at-home mums. I don't know. I don't get paid for this and I'm doing all this work. It's like, yes, you're doing all this work, start charging him. That's one way to do it. Start charging him. He wants a wife and a slave, and because essentially if you're not getting paid for it, then you're a slave, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Someone's gonna crack the shits over that statement, I don't know. But you know, it's strange. I mean, living alone, I do everything. I literally do everything. I would like to find a man who is in the same circumstances. I want you to be able to do everything. Cooking, cleaning, handling the house, and working. It's like, if you can find someone who is my equal, that would be interesting. But they seem to only situate themselves in the work field and say that's the valuable part. It's like, is it though? It's like, I go out to work, but I don't know how to do laundry. It's like, bullshit, you don't. Yes, you do. And if you don't, then you shouldn't be proud of that. You should be working towards figuring out how to fucking do it. Considering everything's done by machine these days, how hard could it be? You know, it's this... That's why I got pissed off with my exes when they got that weaponized incompetence shit going on. I was like, you're just not... Nope. I don't know. Masking. Masking is interesting. Alright, what can we sum it up as? Because I am at work and I've got 10 minutes to get into work. I'm just thinking, at what point do all these comments I make about women become reverse sexism? It's like, oh god, the equality. It's not equal. Yeah, but you're not showing us ways to be equal. Yeah, you're downplaying the basics that everyone should be doing and saying this is more valuable, but we don't want you trying to reach for it because it's masculine. It's like, why is it masculine? Why? Why is it masculine to want to own and run your own business? It's weird. That's just a person thing. That's not even a... Anyway, I'm not going into that today. I gotta go into work. What can we say about masking? Anyway, there are certain levels of masking that you can do or you should be doing because of professionalism. And it's not to say that you should just sign the waiver and say everything that they say I should be doing is a go. You know, if a business gets you to sign a waiver, a gag order, then you probably should question what kind of traits they're asking you to take on in order to belong to this business. Because it's like, there's some sus shit going on here. When it comes to your downtime, I wouldn't bother masking. You need to be able to be comfortable within yourself in order to relax and to be able to connect with people. So there's no point pretending to be someone else in a social group in order to promote an image of what you could and should be, the potential. If you're not it, then don't be it. But that's not to say sit in your underachieving side of things and say this is how far it gets and I shouldn't try any harder. It's ridiculous. You should all be... You know, you can hear the rain. You should always be striving for better, tweaking who you are, working on who you are. Do you have an umbrella? I do. To be sitting, you know, like... I mean, and people have trouble taking advice and criticism. Criticism is always seen as like a bad thing. Constructive criticism is not a bad thing, so you've got to be able to differentiate between the two. Is it constructive or is it just some sitting there like bitching at you? But are they bitching at you because you ignored the first 50 times? I don't know. But at the same time, it's like, if we're looking for a relationship with someone, for example, we should be looking at someone who meets our perception of what our partner should be. And a lot of people just sort of jump into the romanticized version of relationships without actually considering who they're jumping in with. Maybe it starts as a lustful thing and it turns to a situationship and then you're stuck with this person. Or maybe you fell in love at 17, like I did. And then you grow apart over time, you don't realize right until the end. And, you know, it's too late because you're bogged down and you're stuck with this person that doesn't reflect your values, but you just let it scoot that long that you're kind of like, should I stay or should I go? It's a tricky, slippery slide. If you can, call it if you need to. If you can identify traits which are not conducive to your internal alignment. I mean, you can do that at any point in the relationship, for example, but if you're like right before it starts and set the foundation for what should be a good relationship, then you probably should aim for that. Rather than throwing it together and hoping it works. The winging it never really works, because there's just too much a margin for error. Saying this person has the potential to get better or to be better is not good enough either, because there's a chance they won't bother reaching for that potential because you've already accepted them at this level. It's like, well, what? But I've got a girl or I've got a guy. Why should I bother pushing for anything else? It's like, I already got one. You know, it's... they're not going to try any harder because they already got you. There's that risk. Even in your social groups, for example, you should be looking to find groups which reflect your inner alignment, not just joining in because this is what's available in the area, or this is, you know, is what's popular at this point. It's a slippery slope. I mean, I'd rather stay on my own, to be honest, than fake being someone to fit in a group. I've done it before. I didn't feel comfortable. It feels like you're living a lie. You take on traits that you don't morally agree with to say that you belong. It's binge drinking, for example. Considering I was a teetotaler for 16 years, from legal age. What's legal age in Australia to start drinking? I think it's 18. I would have had a few drinks at 18. Nothing big. I wasn't a binge drinker. But then around about mid-20s or something like that, around about mid-20s, I just went teetotaler because I'm like, oh, fuck it. I can't be bothered. But then to take it on later on in life and knowing it's a destructive trait because, you know, it leads to all kinds of health problems and social problems. I recognized that as a trait that I needed to ditch, that I was masking, because it's not me. I'm not that person. I have no inclination towards it. It doesn't interest me in any way. I was doing it just to say I could fit in with these people. I can think of better words, but people. We'll go with that. You know, hence the reason it was so easy to drop it afterwards, just after you leave the group. It's just no influence to push you to drink or to push you to do anything else. Like, these guys were also taking drugs and stuff like that. There was one guy on mushrooms. I'm like, stupid. There's a few guys on weed. I'm sitting there going, also not good. And this was a young crowd that were also into things like, you know, taking tablets and shit like that. I'm sitting there going, do you have any idea what these things do? And I was considered the odd one out because I wasn't taking the drugs. Sitting there going, I don't give a fuck what you fuckers think is cool. This isn't high school. There are very real world experiences, like repercussions from taking these things. I'm older maybe, but I know better. So I'm not going to mask, you know, and it's all peer pressure as well. It's like, it's so high school. You guys are still living in a high school mentality. You're not cool because you're not doing this. It's like, I'm not doing this because it will kill you, fuckwit. I'm not taking drugs because it will ruin your fucking life, and I've seen it happen already. This is not a case of I'm rebelling against, well, maybe I am rebelling. I'm rebelling against stupidity. That's my authentic self. This sassy bitch. So you've got to live a life that's authentic. The only masking you should do is that which is required to exist in a constructive setting. Don't do destructive things just to say you belong. It's fucking stupid. I mean, that's the thing to take away from this, isn't it? It's stupid. How you know, how I think it stems from people being afraid of being alone, that they won't stand up for themselves even when they're living in a destructive environment like that. It's like, my friends are all doing this, so I have to. You're afraid of being alone. You're afraid of not being included. What are you afraid of by being alone? Because you'll be seen as a loser? It's like a loser that's not dead from an overdose. Oh no. It's like a loser whose life's not gone down the toilet because they decided to not take drugs. I'd rather be that loser, to be honest. Like, A loser that doesn't piss all their money away down the drain at the pub and instead opts to buy a house. Such a loser. You know, see, I don't think... what are you afraid of? Winning? It's like, what the fuck? Is that some kind of self-sabotage? I wonder. Like, it's just some subconscious self-sabotage. It's not overt self-sabotage, really, because they still think what they're doing is right. But what they're doing that they think is right doesn't actually go anywhere. But it's cool. We were popular kids once in high school. It's like, means fuck all out in the real world. Hey! In fact, it's working against you because you haven't put any kind of foundation into your life. Because you don't think you should have to. Following the same traits you did in high school. I mean, they were probably fucking up their grades in high school too, to be honest. It's a weird set of values to perpetuate into adulthood when you should know better. By mid-20s, you should be working on getting your shit together, man. It's like really putting down the foundations rather than wrecking your life because your friends want you to. It's strange. Mid-20s. If you could do it earlier, given this current climate, you probably fucking should. As early as you can. Weird. Anyway, I'm rambling and my flu's kicking in. I'm hoping you guys have a fantastic Monday. If you're anywhere where I am right now, I hope the rain isn't bugging you. Take it easy. If you have to mask, make sure it's justified. Just don't do it to appease morons. If you're looking for external validation, you're not going to be happy by masking. It needs to align with your internal value and sense of self-worth, because people will just ride that shit. You'll find yourself doing things that you don't want to do in order to get that external validation, which is ridiculous. It will lead you down a very merry path of stress and life horrors if you give into it. And it's all to do with boundaries as well. You know, you got to have your own boundaries set up so you don't get exploited. I'm gonna stop there because I am rambling. Have a great Monday, and hopefully I'll do one of these tomorrow, and hopefully I won't have the sniffles and the cough and all that crap. Hopefully.